Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com. Zinnia wealth.com. Hey, if it's time to talk about your retirement, let's get that on the calendar. You can go to our website, which is zinniawealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. You'll be on your way. I also encourage you to tool around the website a little bit. Hit the media tab there. You can see the radio shows from now and the past. You can also see podcasts. You see interviews, a lot of different things there on our website, a lot of things that you can kind of tool around and use as well. There's a button up there that says education. Click on that, then click on useful guides. Boy, lots of stuff opens up that you can download all about retirement. Okay, so one of the rules about retirement that has been around for an awfully long time is the 4% rule. And Sharice can give you the history of that. But the idea is if you pull 4% of your money, you have, we always say, you have $1 million. You pull 4%. That's $40,000 a year, right? Okay, so if the market is growing, and you're taking 4%, you're doing okay. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that rule has been challenged a lot of times and altered a lot of times. This is Christine Benz, and she's from Morningstar, and she says we're gonna make a small addition to that this year.
We came out with 3.9% as a safe starting withdrawal for people who have an approximately 30-year time horizon. But my hope is that people don't just take that 3.9 or 4% and run with it, because in many scenarios that will lead to significant underspending and really depriving themselves of a better quality of life that they could otherwise have.
All right. Yes, that's very, very important what she said there. But let's talk about this. What is the history of the 4% rule? Did it work at one time? Will it work today? I mean, she's just pulling it down to 3.9 now. And since the market's up, why are we pulling it down? I don't get this thing.
Okay. How do you go from 4% to 3.9%? That's, I'm going to be nice, but that doesn't really wiggle the budget. I can do the math in my head right now, and it doesn't make a big difference. So don't listen to all things that you hear, but let's just talk about the history of the 4% rule, because if you go online, it'll be 3.5. It'll even be 3%. You're going to hear it from all different people. They're all going to have their different says. Morningstar, doesn't matter. Christine Benz, whoever. But the 4% rule was created in the 90s when the stock market from 1980s to 2000, it grew like 1,000%. It went straight up the Dow Jones. This was an anomaly time period because that's never happened before and it probably won't ever happen again. So they came up with the 4% rule saying, hey, if you don't spend more than 4%, you will never run out of money. So if you had $1 million and you pulled 4%, that's $40,000. But then what happened come the year of 2000? There was a 33-month decline in the stock market, and the market just dove. And so somebody's 401k instantly was a 201k if you followed that 4% rule, because you had to pull 4% out probably to cover your budget if you were retired. And then it took 5 years to recover. And then 2007, 8, the same thing happened, 18-month decline, and then it took 4 years to recover. So here's the deal. There's this lost decade that you need to pay attention to from 2000 to 2010. If you followed this 4% rule, you would be in big trouble because the average over that 10 years was actually 1.8%. It wasn't 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8 every year. It was with the ebbs and flows of the stock market. And if you're pulling money out when the market went down, you were nearly out of money. And this is why the number one fear in retirement, Randy, is running out of money, because this has happened to so many people where I remember it like it happened yesterday. And this was a long time ago. Some people came into me that had about $2.6 million. When they came in and saw me, it was 2009, maybe 2010. It had to be 2010. They had about 1.2 million left over. The problem is they were living off too much of the money. So as the market was going down, they were pulling out their money. And as the market was going up, they were pulling out their money. So that's a big no-no. You have to have money that did not take a loss to live on during time periods like that. This is why having a financial advisor in retirement makes impeccable sense to help you understand this. And it was really sad because those people, they had to cut back their budget. They had a farm. down. Everything went wrong. And to say, hey, we're retired and we have to cut your budget back so that this remaining 1.2 million doesn't run out. But here was the deal. They didn't listen. And a few years later, I would say 4 years later, they had like 850,000 left over. They were spending their money way too fast, getting things fixed. They weren't thinking. So listen, there's a 3.9% rule. There was a 4% rule. This couple was actually pulling 6% out. For some reason, their advisor said it was okay to do that. And whatever the rule is, I call it the Charisse rule. Oh, let's not call it the Charisse rule, Randy. It's called the Zinnia rule. Okay. Every household that comes in here, it is not cookie cutter. You are all going to have your own rule based on the inventory that you tell us you have from your fixed income, your Social Security, your pensions, if you have rentals, whatever you have coming in, and then whatever debt you have, if you have any. And then you're going to have your own special Zinnia rule because not everybody follows 4%. Not everybody's going to follow 3%. Not everybody's going to follow 6%. And it's really going to be dependent on our plan. So anybody who says it's cookie cutter that is not creating you an income plan, that's the wrong office for you, because it is absolutely imperative that you don't work with an advisory firm that makes things cookie cutter and everybody in the office is doing the same thing, because you have a different scenario from your neighbor Bubba to the person across the street or down the road from you. So we got to really match the math with your personality, your four walls and your roof in your own home, and what your needs are and your wants.
Well, one of the things I hear you saying there, Charisse, is it's okay to, maybe use some of these rules as a starting point. But the big differentiator here is instead of pulling a percentage of your wealth, there should be some of your wealth that makes more wealth. And that should be with the bucket that you're pulling from. And then that creates a whole different scenario here is I need a financial advisor to grow my money, at the same time preserve my money, but I also need income from my money. So there's the three things that your job is. It's preserving, growth, and income. And you've got to do all three of those things in order to make a retirement work.
Yeah, it's taken us years to get that down right, but we do it every day, and our advisors, they're really good at it. And we just want to make sure like you're getting what you want covered and your needs covered in retirement, and then that we're not running out of money at the end of the day. That's the number one fear. Let's get that fear to go away and work on the plan to the ability that we can.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Charisse Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.